Today, are you feeling a little too basic or maybe a little too acidic? Well, the pH balance is here. This is ChillPoint. Hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, where we are talking about all the video game news
that we like.
Yeah.
If we don't talk about it, clearly we hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, including that one that you're thinking about right now.
Yeah. And yeah, Bij is not with us today.
Every time you say that, it makes it sound like he's died somewhere. Unfortunately, Bij couldn't be with us today.
Yeah. He maybe he was doing too much Fallout.
He's got to do more of that tonight.
Yeah. So we'll.
So he's got to rest up in his power armor or something.
Whatever. I mean, the real question is, when you can't see Bij, that is when he is the most dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, even when you can't see him, he's pretty dangerous, but because, that doesn't stop a Bij drop from happening.
If he's not here, maybe he's behind you right now.
Especially if you happen to be in a room that's dark and you think that there's no one who could possibly be behind you. It's wrong. We have a whole crap shot about Paul getting trapped in a mirror, actually. So,
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
So, hey everybody. No checkpoint this week. We've been doing this heavy duty Friday nights filming all this week, but that has been going very well. And now, we'll be back on regular checkpoint next week, but there's still news.
Yeah, I don't know why they keep doing that.
Yeah, we really gotta tell people.
Maybe they're not getting my memos. I'm pretty sure that email that I've been using, scream into the void don'ttalktome.com isn't working.
That group email to every single video game company and news outlet.
Yeah, and some just individuals for the fun of it, just so I can really round it out.
But yeah, there's a bunch of fun stuff that came out this week, and some not so fun stuff, but that's okay. That happens.
We can't have a week that's just fun in video game land. It doesn't work that way anymore.
But firstly, Peglin is out of early access.
Yeah, they finally hit 1.0.
1.0, and it's also out on Steam, which is pretty cool. Peglin, if you don't know, it's a super cool roguelite Peggle pachinko game.
It's got like a marble that drops around, but you're doing like an RPG-ish fight at the top. It's like Puzzle Quest.
Yeah.
But with a different kind of game.
Yeah. Also notable for being the game that Graham and I jumped over to during our after we finished Untitled Goose Game on our subathon stream like last year, and apparently completely fluked out and like rocked it the first time we played, and then retired champion.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what you got to do first time.
Yeah,
you that next time you're gonna think you know things, and everything's just gonna go.
I think Graham was saying that he actually started. He actually got it on his iPad and has been playing it. Was playing it a lot, and he was like, I now know how much we fluked out in our first run.
Yeah, I think I could see a tablet being really good for
playing
that.
Yeah, I mean his big mistake was to not retire champion.
Well,
that's what you need to do.
That's just called greed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very common gamer mistake.
But anyway, yeah, it's super cool, and I love I feel like, I mean, this article in Ars Technica review of it makes note, and I think basically every review I've seen of it is, obviously the comparison is Peggle, which requires people to be basically like, it's like Peggle, the first one and the second one, and then there's the current Peggle, which is just the worst and everyone hates.
Actually, I guess it kind of reminds. Is it 1 million or Build a Boat or something that has that like it's a match 3, but you're trying to do
1 million is that?
yeah.
It's part of that too.
Yeah. That's just that's the kind of interface it reminds me of the you have one game going on, but you're using that interaction for a different thing.
For like fighting people up top.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it is there's been because there's Peggle and there's Peggle 2 and there's Peggle Knights, all three which were super fun.
When you say Knights, is that with a K or just an N?
With an N.
Oh, okay. I kind of want it to be.
It's
with
like
a K.
it's all like I don't know, neon and like disco and stuff. It's super cool actually.
So Party Nights.
It was a fun. Yeah,
is kind of more what they're going for.
It was a fun
thing.
thing
People
they
just say
did.
night. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. We shroud in the darkness. Yes, we all thrive there, Paul. It's great. And now you're like,
No.
neon lights and stuff. I'm like, oh, Party Night. No.
Yeah.
No, I do not thrive in the Party Nights. But good for them.
But then they did and then PopCap got bought up by EA, and then they released stuff, and yeah, Peggle Blast. I remember actually like not that long ago, we were talking about something, and I was thinking about, I started thinking about Peggle and stuff, and I was like, man, I should play that game again. And I downloaded Peggle Blast, and I played it maybe like for like 2 levels until I got so frustrated by the monetization, where it was like, oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this is not that, but it's just the fact that like every review of Peglin also has to take like side shots at Peggle because of how it's fallen.
Well,
it's just kind of funny.
It is a game about a falling marble. You kind of want to take all the pot shots you can. Besides
it's something
it
that
just looks super cute.
It is, yeah. But that's something that we do that I like, sometimes on ChillPoint that like happens, just to like, I'll be like reading a story that somebody wrote. Often Beach, but also sometimes other people, that just like, that sort of catching strays thing, like just like some people just like, doing a story about something completely different and just casually like bad mouthing some other game, or some company, just like, talking about like Ubisoft or Activision or something, just sort of like in passing, but just like, who are terrible. All right. And yeah, right. Always randomly insulting balloon fight for no reason.
I mean, I assume that was a nostalgia thing. I have no idea what everyone's beef about Balloon Fight is. It was never a game I played.
So that joke was originally because one of the early like NES collections, there was like it was like Mario, Zelda, like it was all the like main franchises,
the bigger franchises. Yeah, okay.
And Balloon Fight shows up in like a bunch of these collections. There's like, it shows up in like WarioWare. There's like a representation of Balloon Fight in that, and it's this stuff, and it's like, I just love this idea that I feel like Nintendo thinks that there's more nostalgia for Balloon Fight than there actually is.
Or there's someone there who secretly loves it, wishes they could do an update, but has no idea what the heck you would do with an update.
Yeah. It was just like, I don't know. It was the idea that just that Balloon Fight was like just a weird include in some of these packs. So it was 10 best loved games and also Balloon Fight. Anyway.
I mean, once you start a joke like that, the repetition is what is going to keep
Right.
making it.
And so then whenever there's a pack, it's like 15 games. It'll be 14 games, and then whatever the least popular game is.
Yeah.
Or whatever game.
I mean, if Balloon Fight's in there, I know it is going to be and Balloon Fight, and I know I've had the discussions with Beach sometimes where it's like, okay, so this thing's happening, so we're going to do this joke again because of course we are. Out of these games, what's the funniest one to be and blah with?
Right.
And I'm like, that's hard because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's just a pack where you're like, well,
they're all basic.
These are all good and beloved. I don't. So which one sounds silly?
Anyway. Speaking of re-release things, well, sort of re-release things, Banjo-Kazooie isn't being re-released, but it has been due to from some heavy-duty work by a bunch of fans. It has been 100% decompiled. Joining the likes of Super Mario 64, Perfect Dark, Majora's Mask, on Ocarina of Time. People have been working on these. I don't really understand the process, but from what I gather, it is quite involved to do a full decompile of these games.
I mean, if it was less involved, they would have done it already sooner.
Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie. Sorry, someone was asking what the name of this game is. Banjo-Kazooie. And the cool thing is, and remember a little while ago, there was like a Super Mario 64 like Windows edition that people made. That's like running at 60 frames a second, running at super high resolution, can do all this stuff.
All the gamer dreams
you
can dream.
And that's decompiling the ROM allows them to do that because then they can then translate it fully. Mm-hmm. So rather than like emulating, you're actually running it natively on the PC or whatever. And the other interesting thing is because it's going back into source code, you can now they can actually like look at these games and not only see interesting fun things about it, but also like see mistakes. And find bugs and fix them.
Right, because you can read the code now, so you can
actually
you're checking someone's homework.
Yeah, and you can see it's like and with like Mario 64, there's been all sorts of stuff with like weird glitches or things, and then so you don't have to just be like, oh, there's the whatever half A press thing. You can look at the code and see exactly not only what is actually happening, but often why it's happening, right? It's like, oh, I see what they're doing here. They have to load it in two separate places. And then there's like often there's like things where like there's a check, to see whether somebody's in bounds, and then they don't check again. So like if you can miss if you can do something to miss the first check, it'll never check you again, so you can get away with stuff and
so
all sorts of interesting things.
Is this where we find out that Kazooie the entire time has been a mistake and just something the devs couldn't get rid of, and so they had to lean into it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be just Banjo, but yeah, they well, it's like that. What's that game that like is it Golf with Friends? Was the one that had that the dev room that they couldn't figure out how to delete out of the game?
It was
Golf with Friends 2?
No. It's the sports game. Like
or Golf Story or something?
It was the sequel to Golf Story. It was Sports Story or something, where they made the dev room.
Yeah, there's that like secret dev room where they were Golf Story 2, where they were complaining about how hard the game was or to make and how they were being mistreated.
It was like it was impossible to get into the room or something.
Yeah, well,
then people figured out how to get in, something like that.
Yeah, there was a whole thing to get into the room. It was this big Easter egg, and then, but then they were like, "We're gonna update it, take out the room," and then it turned out that they couldn't, And so they just like changed all the dialogue, so everyone was like, "We're very happy working here."
Yeah, it made it go from the whole like blink twice if you're actually okay.
Yeah, it became very weird. Anyway, so if you are a Banjo-Kazooie, actually the other confusing thing about this story that I like is the guy who did the decompilation. His username is Banjo-Kazooie, which is very confusing. So like in this article, it's like, thanks to Banjo-Kazooie, like the coder, not the game, Banjo-Kazooie, the game,
Not the coder.
has now been fully decompiled. Banjo-Kazooie versus Banjo non-Kazooie. Although, actually, wait a minute. I never noticed this before. It's actually Banjo-Kazooie.
Well, because Banjo's name ends with a hyphen and Kazooie's name starts with a hyphen, clearly.
Right. Yeah, Banjo.
It's like when they put that X in a lot of anime titles. You don't really pronounce the X.
Right. It's Banjo cross Kazooie.
Yeah. The X clearly like fell apart and turned into two hyphens.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Banjo is a command line program. Kazooie is one of the arguments they have to put in.
Again, Kazooie was a mistake.
Yeah. We talked about a couple weeks ago. We talked about Atari reconstituting Infogrames as an entity.
Oh, right.
To be a place to put retro games.
Yeah.
And outside of the silliness that Infogrames and Atari have sort of been bought and sold and switched places and all these things over the years.
Some weird like corporate shell game going on where you can't tell where the ball is.
But in any case, there's this interesting interview with CEO of Atari, Wade Rosen, who is talking about this sort of push, saying that they're really into being a sort of preservationist publisher is what they call it. So they're into this idea of publishing games that might otherwise become unavailable.
Okay.
Or acquiring the licenses so that they can publish games that the original publishers or developers are no longer interested in continuing.
Okay.
So like Infogrames is pretty unique in that we've had a lot of opportunities coming to us of games or IPs that people wanted to sell because they felt like they shouldn't just disappear. That's precisely why they acquired Totally Reliable Delivery Service, Awesome Knots, and Surgeon Simulator. What I thought was kind of interesting about this is they're sort of like, that's sort of like, we know what we are and what we want to do, and we really want to sort of focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they talk about like yeah, they're saying Rosa explains these details, and he's saying that they are not interested in talking to developers about new projects. They're like, if you want to get somebody to develop a new project, they're saying, go talk to Devolver Digital, Annapurna, one of those people. we have no intention of moving into that space, at least with the Infogrames line.
Yeah.
What we're really interested in is IPs that have been out for a long time, but that people have moved on from. People want to focus on their future projects and want to raise capital to make new games and focus on those, and that's what Infogrames is looking for. So he's, people who don't want to maintain or use their old IPs, and it's like, we'll take them and produce them. So I think it's important to have like I think it's a good goal. Who knows what happens.
It's a good goal. I just don't know how well it works in a capitalist society or like under an organization that essentially would like to make money.
I mean, they're not a charity. They're certainly selling it all.
Well, yeah, stuff, and I'm not saying it's just the whole a game that's been out for a very long time that people have kind of moved on from isn't exactly doesn't sound like a profitable venture either. Well,
they say, I guess they're into that sort of long tail aspect, right? Mm-hmm. They say why we don't typically look at unreleased projects is that I don't think we're more qualified to do that than anyone else. I don't think we have a competitive advantage, and I don't think we're the best in the world at it, best in class at it. So really, why would we do it? So this idea that like they have the brand name. Excuse me. They have the brand name. They have hopefully the expertise in these sort of older engines and older stuff. So they're like, this is something that we can kind of hang our hat on. That this is, a little bit like limited release or like 8-bit or some
limited run.
Limited run. Sorry, yeah. These some of these other retro game. Limited release or limited run does the physical release.
Yeah, their thing is more about physical.
But it's that idea of like, let's try to sort of differentiate ourselves in the market and be like, we're the people you come to do this, and this is where consumers come when they want this kind of a game. Mm-hmm. That's the hope anyway. It's
weird to me in some ways to watch how we've gotten to this point where publishers aren't just a place where you go to try to pitch a game. You go to specific publishers that you think work under the brand of game that they kind of try to push.
Yeah, that's true. And
like they're almost all kind of, especially like a lot of indie game publishers now start to feel like almost like a boutique kind of thing. Like they have a specific kind of
definitely
niche that they're going for, and people have an expectation of what kinds of games come from that publisher, even though those publishers aren't making those games.
Right. Yeah. The old thing, or the thing of like, Devolver Digital doesn't actually make that many games. I think they have some game development stuff, but they mostly publish.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there is a certain style of game that is definitely associated with Devolver Digital.
Yeah. There's like a game, like when you see it, you're like, yeah, it's probably under them, right? Like,
there's one or two games that I've seen, like, Yahtzee will do a review of it, and he's like, if this wasn't a Devolver Digital game, that they would be bidding for this. And Annapurna too, for that matter.
Oh yeah.
There are game, and I think that's deliberate on their part to be sort of
that's part of what you do as a publisher, right? You pick the games you want to publish.
Yeah, you want to sort of be curating to a certain extent.
It's just I guess, I don't know, maybe I just find it weird, but I know there would have been like several years ago where I wouldn't have paid attention to who's publishing a game. Whereas now, if someone says, "Oh, this is an Annapurna game," I'm like, "Oh, is it? Let me go look at that."
Although I feel like I think it can be a little frustrating for developers because people get that confused. Mm-hmm. That like, Annapurna makes like so many different games. They're a really big developer. It's like, no. They make all these. They're
mostly a publisher. I believe they were working on a game or something themselves in house. but I don't know if I've heard anything about that recently.
All right, let's talk about. So this is somewhat less fun, but
Also, does not contain real spiders.
yeah,
We're not going to be showing you spiders.
we're not going to be
But we're
showing
going
you.
to say the word spiders a lot, I think.
Not going to be showing you real spiders. However, it turns out spiders are doing some rather unfortunate employment things. And in this case, we're not talking about the
Nobody's employed by actual spiders that we know of.
the our little 8-legged friends. We are talking about the Spiders, the development company behind Greedfall, which is a little bit on the nose. And they've been they've gotten hit by they've gotten called out by, they're a French developer, and they've gotten called out by the Union of Video Game Workers in the Syndicat du Travailleur du Jeu Vidéo. I think French. The STJV. Because their employment practices. The 20-page letter that was made public on Tuesday outlined multiple complaints against the studio, including allegations of employee management, delays in gender equality, employment instability, and more stuff about different male and female employees being paid different amounts for the same, not having parity in that. Really overworking because they're currently in the process of working on Greedfall 2, and so there's the crunch on that has been really bad. But the thing that is weird for this, so this is this is a letter that was released by this Union of Video Game Workers on behalf of the workers of Spiders, and it was signed. This letter was signed by something like half of the workers.
Okay, yeah.
44 of the 95 employees, and it documents years of known problems. So despite having been brought up with management for years through every possible channel, problems are either ignored or worse, their very existence is outright denied and questioned. We demand that the head of the company receive a delegation of Spiders' workers to discuss all these points. She accepted the delegation and went to a meeting on August 27th and then waited in vain for management to come, which it never did. So they got very mad and they released this letter publicly. In the response from Spiders is very confusing to me. Their response says, the Union of Video Game Workers has publicly relayed allegations concerning the working environment at Spiders. The false and even defamatory accusations made by the STJV in no way reflect the reality of the day-to-day working life of the company's employees and are an attack on the reputation of the studio, whose teams are fully mobilized to produce quality games and enthusiastically ensure the early access release of Greedfall 2. Spiders management is committed to open and constructive social dialogue after unsuccessful attempts over the last few days to meet a delegation of employees. They have proposed a meeting again by the end of the week. Spider's employees are at the heart of the studio. We are determined to maintain an inclusive and stimulating working environment for which every talent can flourish and for which we can all be proud. Like, this is a response as if this is like a news article that came out about bad working conditions, as opposed to a open letter by the employees about how the working conditions are bad. Like, it's like it doesn't reflect the day-to-day realities of working life for the company's employees.
When you have more than half of
that's
people
what the employees are saying is their
do.
day-to-day life.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it sounds like bullshit.
It's just very like. Also, I just love the like, after unsuccessful attempts over the past few days to meet with a delegation of employees, which the letter was like, we were there, they didn't show up.
Yeah.
And apparently that's happened several times.
Yeah, you're right. Though it was unsuccessful.
Yeah, those were
it's not for the reasons you're saying.
It's that passive voice thing, right?
Yeah.
The meetings were missed. Anyway, I don't know. Perhaps more information may have come out about this since I saw this article.
They should definitely not have started with that first paragraph of like, this is an attack on us and we're like all these other things. They probably should have started with, we're open to communication, we're open to these things and blah. Not that they were probably doing any of those things anyway, but to start with
and also one of the complaints in the letter was that management denies that these are problems.
Well, they're still doing that from the looks of it.
I feel like the thing of like, this does not reflect the reality of day-to-day life working at the company is like, the CEO in his office, like, looks out the window. It's like, no, everything seems fine out there. Like, that's the extent of his check.
Nobody's told me about problems.
Anyway.
All right, so don't trust spiders is what I'm hearing, which is always a rule I've always kind of like gone with.
Or I prefer what Simon Ark in the chat says. These people don't live up to the level of kindness and decency I expect from spiders. Ooh. They're giving spiders a bad name.
I mean, they are, because we all know hop, skip, and jump are just utterly cuddle bumpkins.
Yeah. As CEO, I have never encountered any of these problems about the CEO forcing us to work harder that all these people are complaining about. So I don't know what the issue is.
Well, now that we've made fun of spiders.
Let's make fun of squids.
Oh, okay. Squids and kids?
Yeah, Splatoon 3 version 9.0.0, which seems like so many versions. Like, that seems like a very high version number.
It's been out for a while.
If we're especially, I don't know how their version, if they're using like sim version, which they probably aren't. That usually you don't expect a game, especially a console game, to have that many. You have like 1.0.3 or something.
Well, Captain Spam says that major versions are for each season in Splatoon 3. So and again, it's been out for a while. So if this is like their 9th season, that makes sense.
They're versioning wrong is basically the answer.
I mean, everybody is, but it's okay.
Anyway, we've done this one we've done this before in a few things. Splatoon 3 has some of the best patch notes because the stuff in the game is sort of inherently goofy.
Yeah, there's all kinds of paint sprayers and
like, for instance, the squeezer and the foil squeezer are having the speed of their first shot fired after pressing the ZR button slowed by approximately 5%.
Oh, bad news
So-
for you.
Also, the Slosher Deco, and the Order Slosher Replica are having the amount of ink consumed by approximately 9%, increased by. But also the some of these very specific, some of these very specific bug fixes.
Oh, good bug fix.
That I'm sure these really these happen. It's great that they fixed these because I'm sure this was a constant problem. Fixed an issue when using the Zipcaster or inkjet when a player pressed and held the A button or L button to ready a clam or fizz bang while in the middle of returning to their original position after the end of the effect, and tilted the left stick to activate the drop roller gear ability. The player might perform an unintended action or an unintended sound effect might play. So we fixed that.
I mean, definitely unintended actions is not a thing that you want in a game like that.
Yeah.
That's fair. But I do think unintended sound effects are funny.
So you have to be using a Zipcaster, holding the A or L button, readying a clam or a fizz bang, returning to your original position at the end of the effect with the left stick tilted to activate the drop roller, and that bug might activate. So, maybe there's probably one of those things where like in competitive Splatoon, that's like you can exploit that glitch.
I mean, or it's just a thing you really don't want to have happen, right? Like it's going to be one or the other. It's either something you exploit or it's something that really causes problems.
I like this. Fixed an issue where sometimes when a player descended onto the tower pillar after using a booyah bomb and slipped off, the player would hang in the air, unable to move until the tower moved. Like, no, help! I'm trapped.
No, you don't want to be in a gunner with like no movement.
Looks like there's a bunch of clipping.
Yeah, I could see that.
Issue in the Lemuria hub when the movements of moving terrain becomes unstable. Ooh, I like this. Fixed an issue in Lemuria hub when sometimes when the player placed an ink mine at the edge of moving terrain, the placed ink mine would immediately vanish or explode. One or the other.
If it vanishes, I get to play more Splatoon, but if it explodes, I should stop for the day.
Yeah, that's just the game telling you that it's time to take a break by randomly exploding. This is apparently mostly in preparation for a big new Splatfest, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's when they do the online competitions for different things.
For a special big run in the near future, which is going to have a... I saw a article, this is a different article, but it was talking about the next grand festival or whatever is going to have you have to, there's like it's one of these things where like everybody, all the players are jointly trying to collect a certain number of things.
Yeah.
And I think they've raised the number that people are trying to collect. It's something like 300 million things or whatever. It's like, it's the highest goal that they've ever had for one of their Splatoon Splatfest.
They haven't said what the categories are.
I don't think so.
Because usually there's like a question. It's like,
right. It's like
what kind of ice cream do you like? Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, that kind of thing. Because they do the three-way thing now.
Right.
Like they did the Zelda one when they were bringing out Tears of the Kingdom. It's like power, wisdom, or courage. And they had those cool keychains that I made sure I got.
Ooh. Which one won?
I don't remember. I think
it would be a little awkward if power won.
I don't think it was power. It was probably courage or something. But I just remember. I don't know. Did power win that one?
Whoops. Because that's Ganon's one.
Well, I mean, they made Ganon hot this time. Or so people say.
That's true. That's true.
The fandom makes him hot.
Boop, ba-doop, boop, boop. Speaking of fandom making things hot, I guess.
What did they do, Paul? What did they do?
Well, there's so this is actually not something that this is the thing happened, or the special thing was quite a few years ago. Lego or Square Enix worked with Lego to produce only two were ever made, Final Fantasy VII dioramas.
Huh. Okay.
Lego dioramas.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for display or like.
Yeah. Like sort of like, those big, like, the Lord of the Rings set or different things like that. So they made these special fan dioramas, or the special fan diorama. You can see it here. I mean, it does look pretty sweet. And there's a, where's here's the close up of what Cloud and Aerith looked like. I wish that they made them look more like they're like the blocky overworld versions of them, with their like barbell arms. But anyway, so Lego made these things, and they were done for a social media giveaway back in 2023, and now one of them is being auctioned, and it sold for $12,500.
Lego sets just keep getting more expensive.
And I saw this. I was happy to be with James when I saw this, and I was like, "Hey James, you like Lego? Check this out. What do you think about this set for a measly $12,000?" And he was like, "But like, the whole point of Lego is that like you could just get the pieces and make this for yourself, right? Like, I don't think there are any like unique pieces in it.
Probably not. That's something they usually manufacture for, like, if they're doing a mass product, and even then, they don't like to make that many of them.
It would be cool if, and I wouldn't be surprised if like, Lego aficionados, came up with a build guide to build this thing, just from like looking at pictures of it. That would be pretty neat. But anyway, this was it Heritage Auctions is what it was.
Dang. I was really hoping this was going to be like a Square Enix commissioned Lego to make like a Lego short of Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, like a stop motion thing?
Yeah, because I really like those.
Oh, that would be cool as like a promo for like the third part of the remake set.
For any reason, whatever.
Or
because they got like Lego Horizons happening. Maybe they'll do Lego Final Fantasy VII.
Well, I mean, Lego. Here we go. Lego in with Final Fantasy VII is one kind of crossover. Another kind of crossover that is not currently happening, but
that's every kind of crossover I have on my list, Paul.
But apparently, the Concerned Ape, the creator of Stardew Valley, has been talking to people on Twitter, Twitter, that they have been that they're excited to try to get Stardew Valley characters into Fortnite.
What a confusing idea. I guess I could see it in like if you put characters in Fortnite now, they all kind of show up in the Lego Fortnite, right?
They also do, yeah.
So I could kind of see Stardew Valley characters in that portion.
Somebody asked them, "Hello, Concerned Ape. Just wondering if you would comment on something like this. Would you ever be willing to do a Fortnite crossover?" And then he replies, like, "Yes, I've been trying to. I want Pam in Fortnite. I'm open to doing a collab." And he's like, "Sure." And it doesn't have to be Pam, although I'd be open to anything. Abigail and Sebastian could be good. Stardrop or Jaja Cola as an item. Galaxy Sword or Slingshot. Just wants to get in on that Fortnite action.
It still just seems like a weird pairing.
I
But
mean, you can you're building, you build stuff in Fortnite, right?
you don't really build things in Stardew Valley. I mean, you have a farm. You get things upgraded.
You are you are shooting people in Fort, and you have like a pickaxe in Fort. You have a pickaxe in Fortnite. That's something that you do in Stardew Valley.
I think my problem with this is Fortnite's art style looks like it's made out of plasticine, and I don't know how I would take Stardew Valley looking like that.
And like
But
Stardew
if they
Valley,
make everybody pixelated, maybe.
And like Stardew Valley people, like at sort of regular sort of human size rather than like the sort of super deformed anime style. But I mean, then again, Dragon Ball and various other things have shown up in Fortnite.
Yeah, and I still don't really quite like the way they look in there either. I mean, I don't play Fortnite, so it's really not a thing that's going to matter to me overall in the end.
Unless they put them in the music game.
I don't know I don't think I could convince Ian to go back into that. So that might have to just be I get punished stream, I suppose.
There's that retro game history, like Atari. It's like Atari 100 or something.
Oh, like the 50th anniversary Atari game?
Yeah, that's got it's like a whole bunch of old Atari games, but it's integrated into a sort of a museum or a sort of a historical thing. So it's got a bunch of the games, but then it also has video and text and all the stuff to go along with it. Tetris Forever is being developed by, I think it's by the same Digital Eclipse. Maybe not, but anyway.
Similar idea, though, right?
But it's similar idea. So it's 15 versions of Tetris from all sorts of different systems. Mm-hmm. The Electronica 60.
Yeah.
The NES version. Because the weird thing with Tetris is like, a bunch of the different, it's for such a simple game, some of the like variations in the rules, like, how, whether you can like move stuff after it's touched, like how long you have to move things after it's landed, whether you can like spin stuff into corner, there's all sorts
how
of
you're doing two-player
weird edge case rules.
There's bombs and
that are
some
different.
Version. I know I've played other versions that like you do different things, but it's just Tetris blocks.
Tetris 2 plus Bomb Bliss. Super Tetris 3, Tetris Battle Gaiden. It also has a new game called Tetris Time Warp, which is basically a Tetris that like cycles through all the other versions of Tetris.
Yeah, while you're playing.
Yeah. But then it's also integrated into this. It's sort of this documentary game thing. So it's presented as like an interactive museum that will be accompanied by over an hour of documentary video clips and interviews with key players and text.
They showed this off in the was it the Indie Direct or the partner one?
Yeah,
One
but
of
yeah,
them.
as
One of
a
them.
as a quick
Yeah.
note, there was two different um, Nintendo Direct events this week that happened one right after another.
They did them back to back. Yeah, and because they showed this off, and they also said that they were putting Tetris for the NES on the Nintendo Switch Online
Nice,
as well. So
cool.
a lot of Tetris.
But I remember seeing a thing about, I forget what it was. It was where they were talking about like different like people, especially people who are like the really ridiculously high end Tetris players.
Mm-hmm.
People will like specialize, and like somebody who can play, who like plays the NES version of Tetris at like the highest level, like literally can't play like other versions of Tetris because their reflexes are so locked in to
I
that
could
one
believe
specific
that.
to like exactly how fast the blocks fall and all the different very precise movements you can do. So we've talked a lot about Roblox and how they're super scummy.
They are very scummy. If you
Stealing
need
money.
that reminder, Roblox is terrible and not a good place.
Yeah. And how they have this, one of the big things is this sort of exploiting of developers, and especially sort of young developers and stuff. So there's a really interesting article or sort of analysis by a guy called Matthew Ball.
I meant to read this because it sounds fascinating.
And basically, it's using sort of the publicly available data and stuff, talking about how Roblox is one of the biggest games, period, in terms of hours played, number of players, all that kind of stuff, and they've been incredibly successful in terms of increasing that. Obviously during COVID, the numbers started going up, but unlike a lot of other games, apparently even since lockdowns have lifted and everything, they've kept on that trajectory.
Oh,
almost anyway. Like
that's not been true for most.
So which has not been. So they've been doing an amazing job. They've been doing an amazing job of increasing all their stuff. They've also, at least according to the sort of publicly available data, have been losing massive amounts of money. That they basically they are making, like, their profits every year have gone up, and their costs have basically gone up at the same time. And
Yes.
they are, they're having a lot of problems. So it is one of those. I think it's one of these weird sort of business situations where a business can be very successful and can be, all the people working for the company are making a lot of money, or like the people who are running the company are making a lot of money, and the company is very healthy from a cash flow perspective.
Okay.
But from a overall, like, if you just look at the books, they are technically losing money. But the way it sort of because money is sort of coming in and flowing out and going in stuff. For one thing, this is like one of those. This is like one of those, like, those meme things of like, help, can you fix my budget? It has somebody like, spend this much on transport and this much on food and this much on stuff, and $10,000 on something. Can somebody please help where I can cut my budget? So they, what are there's a place here where they talk about their stuff. So they they're spending, so the stuff they're spending money on, about 23% of the revenues are consumed by app store stuff. So
Yeah, I mean that would make sense.
right, it's not 30% is what most all the places take, but it's 23% because a lot of their stuff is through computer, direct PC stuff. So they don't have to pay the platform fees on that. 26% of revenues are paid out to their developers. So they do pay out some, 26%. Now, one might argue that those developers are actually the ones who are providing all of the value of the Roblox system. So paying 26% out makes sense.
I mean, I guess it just depends on how, like, are they talking about real cash or not? Because the last time I read about how that worked,
That's true. Whether they're
you
talking
got
about
paid in
Robux.
like Robux, and in order to like actually cash out, you needed like a huge amount, but also you end up paying quite a bit to do those things in the first place. So
So yeah, they're
I
also,
don't know.
they're also spending, of course, they're also spending money on, obviously they're spending money on like, general administrative stuff, sales and marketing, blah, 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 blah. So this is where that budgeting thing comes in. So they're like, we're spending all our money, all this stuff. We're not making any money. Roblox R&D investments take up 44% of their revenue.
What do they do in R&D over there?
$1.5 billion a year they're spending on R&D, which is
But what are they R&D?
PlayStation as a whole. Like Sony spends 2.2 billion on R&D at its 21 studios.
Sure, but like
and VR devices and all this kind of stuff.
They do like VR, and they do like they have a console, and they have like
yeah,
all these things. And
so apparently one of the big things Roblox is working on is AI stuff.
wait, when we say AI, are we talking about like gaming AI, or are we talking about like what people say AI and it's like machine learning?
We're talking. They're talking. We're talking. In this case, they're talking like generation stuff, as in like. So they want it. They basically are working on things to make it so that like people to, ostensibly, it's so that more people can build things. So people can be like, in the because you make things remote. So it's like I want a hat that is purple, and then it'll generate you all the not only or like I want a car, and it not only like generates you a car, but like generates it within the engine and does all the sort of hookups to make sure it actually runs like a car and all this kind of stuff, which seems cool, but also, the overarching thing is they want to get, the more people who are building things, the more things they have to sell and buy all sorts.
Yeah, they're trying to use that as a way to make it easier for people to do things, because then more people will do things. Is generally what that's for.
So yeah, so basically, yeah, they're spending something like they're spending something like 134% of their revenue, and 44% of their spending is R&D. So it's interesting. Now, the other things that this article talks about, and it gets into some sort of accounting stuff that is quite interesting. But if you know anything about amortization of assets, so quickly that's like if you buy, say, a computer, you don't
the cost of it goes over something like 3 to 5 years when you would purchase maybe like your next one.
Yeah, so you can, as you purchase, when you purchase the computer, you can't just claim $2,000 on your as like a business expense, because the value of that computer is still, it's not like you have lost that value.
Yeah.
But over time, that value goes down slowly because the computer becomes less valuable. So it wouldn't be able to be resold, and the schedule for that, what that comes down to, at least in Canada, is defined in the tax code. Different types of things can be brought down in different ways.
So like, yeah, as an asset, your computer, when you first have it, has a certain amount of value, and then over time it starts to lessen in value because you're not going to be able to sell it or something like that.
So one of the weird things that he talks about in this article is that they actually they when you buy something, in terms of how they're recognizing their profit, if you buy, say, a like an avatar worth $20
Okay.
in Roblox, in terms of their accounting, Roblox takes that, and they take the average lifetime of a Roblox user, which is apparently 27 months. That's the length of time that the average user plays the game for before they go off and do something else.
It's like 2 years and
It's like 2.5 years.
3 months.
Yeah. And so basically what they do, they say that the value of that, the purchase of that $20 skin is actually amortized over those 27 months. And so that's sort of how they account it, which is apparently something that it's not sort of like illegal or like a bad accounting practice.
Like
it's just
really weird.
It's just people in the industry consider that to be a very strange accounting practice, because usually the value of an asset, especially and they have data that shows, like, if you buy Robux, people generally spend those right away. They don't, or they get the value out of their avatar skin or whatever right away, as opposed to that the value, even though technically, yes, that avatar skin can be played with for their entire
I'm sure
thing.
In some way that makes sense to something, like, and they're clearly doing it for whatever reason that makes their books look good or something, but it sounds wrong in the same way that, like, you find out that a library gets a digital copy of a book, but after the book is like taken out a certain number of times, the book is considered dead because it has to act like a real life book and get damaged, so that they will have to buy another copy of a digital book later. Like, it's just like, but that's not how. Yeah. Why are we?
And so what in this article, the guy points out that this might kind of obfuscate how they're when you say that they're making like $3 billion in profit, if they technically speaking, if they stopped selling things today, next year they would still be making a bunch in profit, because they haven't actually declared, like, some of the profit that they've sort of delayed declaring the profit as the thing is being used. So that that might sort of affect how this accounting is.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, it's probably not worth getting too deep in the weeds. But anyway, the main takeaway on this, and it's an interesting. Here, I'll post the link to the article in the chat here. It's a very interesting article, but just this idea that a company can be the size of Roblox and have such a huge market and have so many people there, and and so much growth and still be losing money. And
paper.
but still on paper,
Yeah.
but and still be sort of a very successful company by all typical sort of measures.
Yeah. Blah.
But anyway, boop, 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 boop. My Sims
Yeah.
is coming to Nintendo Switch.
It's a bundle.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I was like, wait, like there's just a game called My Sims? Isn't that, doesn't that bite into the copyright of Sims? And I was like, oh, wait, it is actually made by the same
Yeah,
people.
it's essentially like a
It's like
spin-off or like same kind of.
yeah, it's sort of a I don't know if it is actually was actually like a mobile game originally, but it's sort of like a mobile gamified Sims.
Well, and yeah, like there's like it's a combo pack because it's like they call it like the cozy bundle or something, or it's like My Sims and then like the Kingdom.
My Sims Kingdom.
Yeah, My Sims Kingdom.
Yes, they're calling it My Sims Cozy Bundle, which something definitely rubs me wrong about a company like EA. Jumping in on the like cozy games thing when that has been very much been like an indie game thing. But
it's supposed to be the first Sims game on the Switch.
Yeah, it was originally a Wii and DS game.
Yep.
And so they've revamped it to not use the Wii motion controls and touchscreens and stuff. And all textures have been updated to render at a higher resolution than it originally was. I should hope so.
It would be really weird.
That would be super.
If you ported a game to the Switch and you were like, it's fine. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, this article says it's like maybe closer to like Animal Crossing than it is to Sims.
Yeah, I mean, so because.
Did you play these games?
I haven't played these, but I did play a DS Sims game that was, I don't remember the subtitle for it because they usually had like a subtitle that was like pets or like whatever. But you ended up in the middle of a town in the middle of the desert. You become the mayor. There's like a whole subplot about being a rat man. It's
a rat man?
Yeah. It was weird. It was fun. But it wasn't like what you expect Sims to be, right? Where you're like, oh, I go in here and like I'm going to build houses and I'm going to do these things. It was much more like there's just this little story going on, and sometimes you walk out into the
that does
desert
seem more.
You find toilets there for some reason.
That does seem more kind of Animal Crossing-ish.
Yeah,
but
it was fun.
Chat. What's the Sims game where you get to be a rat man?
Yeah, it was specifically a DS game. I played it so long ago. Would have been like.
And it wasn't like an official Sims game.
It was still EA. It was still a Sims.
Oh, it was in the Sims series.
Again, it's not the Sims what you expect. The Sims 2 is probably
the Sims
that
2
one.
your DS. Wow.
Yeah, it was like the two. It was definitely before like 2010. It would have been maybe 2007 or something like that. 2005.
This is actually just kind of a neat little story that I saw about, Tears of the Kingdom. Not only a great game, but a real showcase of what the Switch, comparatively low specs compared to some of the other big consoles, what it can do when shown, seeing Tears of the Kingdom. I played Tears of the Kingdom right before right after I played like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
You really got that whole like back and forth feel, huh?
The contrast being like, come on, guys. But anyway, there's a interesting report where they're talking about there's a presentation on some of the cool things that they did, and one of the things I really liked is they talk about the the underworld areas, and they had a lot of problems with that apparently because they really wanted to make that like a seamless transition, but it's a large area, and so they had problems with it taking too long to load in. And so what actually happens in the game is anytime you are close to one of the holes to the depths below that, just the area below that hole has already been loaded. So the moment you go near one of those holes,
it's loading because you can't see it.
They're preemptively loading all the stuff that they need for the little bit
just for the falling,
just the bit and your sort of landing patch. Even if you don't go down the hole, it's ready there waiting for you just in case.
Nintendo really wants you to go down that hole.
Yeah.
But only if you really want to. And
it's that thing, like I was talking to Beach about this when I first saw it, and saying there's a neat part or a neat sort of not a story element, but a one of those sort of fun gameplay things that you find out where like you jump into one of the holes, the big pits that go down into the depths, and you sort of fall down and there's like stuff going past you, and you're sort of like, this is the corridor loading scene, right, where they sort of hide the loading of the thing, and it's like, that's fine, people do that, no problem. And it's like the depths is really dark, especially at the beginning, and so you're like, they can save time by doing that. And then as the game progresses, I mean, one, you light up the depths more and more.
Yeah.
But then also like you run into situations where, say, like you're like riding on one of the dragons or something, and you're like, oh no, that's not like a loading screen. That's just a giant pit that you can literally walk up, you can go move up and down, you can fly, or you can do all sorts of weird things to go up and down it. Like that's not they're not faking a loading screen there, which makes it all the more impressive. The chasms.
Yeah, the depths really is just kind of a strange game about trying to turn on all the lights in a dark room.
But apparently that was like the big thing, because they say in here, for Breath of the Wild, they were limited because they wanted it to be also on the Wii U. And so they were a little bit limited into what they could do. Still very impressive. But then, so Tears of the Kingdom, they really wanted to have that sort of verticality.
Yeah, they did a lot of really cool stuff with it.
Boop, 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 boop.
But I mean, like, Echoes of Wisdom comes out in about a month.
Yeah,
They just revealed that she gets a sword sometimes.
They've revealed new trailers and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't watched the new trailer, and I'm like, should I watch it? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
I kind of don't. I kind of want to. Like, I want to know, but I also don't want to know.
Yeah, I'm kind of into the not like going too deep into the trailers to be more surprised.
They have it at PAX West this weekend, and part of me's like, dang, and another part of me's like, you weren't gonna line up to go do that anyway. I'm like, yeah, I know.
I know, other part of me.
I know.
Speaking of which, actually, before we move on to like the last couple of things here, was there these Nintendo events? Was there anything else at the? Because Heather pays far more attention to these things than I do.
There's paid for Shrek DLC coming to Power Wash Simulator.
Ooh.
Just think that's funny.
You get to power wash his swamp.
Yeah, and
he's gonna be.
Stuff. You also get an avatar that looks like a knight outfit if you want.
Man.
So yeah, that was funny. Have you heard of the game Date Everything? Because that's coming to Switch.
That's the one where you can date your sword and all your different. Right, you can just date like any.
You can date the fridge. You can
different
date the
objects.
Game.
I remember. I think I saw a thing about that like when it was first announced, not for Switch, but just for anything.
Yeah, no, I know it's coming to Switch. Peglin's coming to Switch as well.
Yeah.
Balatro got a bunch of
Right, a bunch of
Crossover. I'm not really sure because I haven't played Balatro, so I don't know if it's like this. These things do anything to the cards, or if it's just we've given some cool card backs because you can do that with card games. But like,
yeah, I think they're just like custom cards of like a bunch of different games.
yeah,
right?
so that got some. That's getting some free DLC or did get a free update.
Like Among Us and
Dave the Diver, Vampire Survivors, Witcher, Hunt, Wild Hunt. So that was pretty neat. Oh, and then they showed off the Plucky Squire, but that's just me being excited about the Plucky Squire.
What's that one? That sounds familiar, but
It's the game that James Turner is making with I can't remember the other dude's
Right.
name. They made that new studio. They make you start off in a storybook and then you get like you walk around the 3D world sometimes and you go into other cards and stuff and rules change and yeah,
nice.
it looks cute. Yeah, in terms of the partner showcase though, I mean, I'm kind of excited to see Fitness Boxing 3 because they talked about a mode of like sitting down in your chair and doing it, but that's like a rhythm cafe thing specifically.
I thought it's like, ooh, a new mode in fitness boxing. You just sit, you sit in a chair and relax.
They are bringing Yakuza Kiwami to the Switch,
Right.
and that's kind of from what I understand, that's a surprising thing because it's always felt like that's never going to be a Nintendo.
And that's the remake of the
That's the
Yakuza
remake of the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They ended the direct on that, which was pretty good.
That's one of those ones where
Beach immediately because so I watched the direct in the morning because I got up early. I didn't watch it like when it landed. About an hour later, and then in the evening, Beach had he finally was able to sit down and watch it. So I watched it again with him, which is fun because I already know what's going to happen. So I'm just watching him watch the direct really, and they started to show that off. He was just like, oh. Fuck. And he like tweeted a thing about how he can play with Yakuza finally.
that's what has been stopping him from playing Yakuza.
That's always been the joke, right? Beach won't play a game unless it's on a Nintendo console, which isn't totally true. I think his Fallout playthrough is.
I was going to say,
evidence of
check out
that,
tonight. He's going to be playing Fallout.
but it's kind of true in the sense of like that is a system he prefers to play things on.
Right.
So, and he already has plenty of games to play. So if something's not on there, it's just a way to be like, whatever.
Right.
But yeah.
But I mean, that's impressive. Like, that's one of those ones that you like sort of half expect them to do like one of those,
Like a cloud version
like
or
a
something.
cloud thing.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, it's gotta be huge, in relation to like the size of what's possible on a Switch card. So
Yeah.
cool. So far that's the only Yakuza game on Switch, right?
It'll be the only one that's there. I assume if they bring more out, they'll probably wait for the successor that's supposedly going to be announced anytime
Right.
before the end of March.
Apparently that was like I don't know if sort of a thing with this particular Nintendo Direct. It was sort of like there are still games coming out for Switch. You don't need to like not make games for Switch. It's still a thing until we tell you it's not.
Yeah, I mean it's again it's like PAX is happening like right this weekend, so it's not that unusual for Nintendo to be like, here's an indie direct that showcases a bunch of games that you probably would have seen at this event that there would have been coverage happening for.
Yeah, my impression was a lot of this was like, this game that you already knew was coming out is coming to the Switch. Like, it wasn't a ton of like new announcements. It was just like, this game, the Switch is getting it. This game, the
A
Switch
lot of
is
it,
getting
yeah. The unusual thing was the fact that they did two kind of separate events back to back. That's never been
Right.
a thing that they've done before. It's fine.
All the Nintendo Directs are all like pre-recorded, right? They're all just like presentations.
Yeah, they typically, sometimes they'll just drop them fully as a whole video, but it seems like they typically do live streams and then they cut off the ends to make it just a video you can watch later.
But it's not like a live event. Like it's just a pre-recorded
No,
thing.
they're all pre-recorded.
Anyway,
The indie event, as usual, has their very super energetic people from the Treehouse doing some voiceover about the games, and then the partner one was a little bit different.
I guess there's this game coming out, kind of so whatever. In other announcements, Deadlock.
Oh, the game is that game actually out, or is that still that game where you can only get in if you're inviting people? Did Valve actually release it?
Well, no, but they've made it more available, possibly. It now has a Steam page.
Oh, okay. So they acknowledge it exists.
They are admitting that it exists.
Okay, well that's a good start, I guess.
It's as Steam pages go, it is pretty minimal. It's about the least amount of data you can have on a Steam page while still filling out the required forms.
Okay.
But yeah, this game was largely like people were playing it was on like closed beta, and they've been bringing in different people and doing stuff, but it's been very kind of hush hush about actually what the game is.
The game that had like 20,000 people playing.
Yeah, it was sort of. This Arsenic article calls it the worst kept secret because a bunch of people were playing.
Yeah, I was listening to this. We talked about this was on a podcast I was listening to, and they were like, "Yeah, if you get a code, you can just invite any of your friends to play." And it was like it just seemed really weird, but I guess people might be finding it interesting.
Yeah. When I see this description, I immediately glaze over, but it's not for me.
What kind of game is it? Let's start with that.
The streams and impressions show that it is a 6-on-6 hero shooter, a la Overwatch, but with teams of NPC drones protecting a Dota 2 style battle lanes. There is also Fortnite-style cover construction and Titanfall-style double jumping and air dashing, melee attacks, and parries, and a bunch of unlockable abilities. So it's a multiplayer hero shooter with a bunch of extra stuff.
It's Browning Point says it's more like a third-person MOBA. None of these descriptions are making me want to play this game, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm currently embroiled with Rogue Legacy 2, and I will know no other love for at least another week.
And finally, it's Sonic's 30th anniversary.
What are we doing for Sonic's 30th anniversary, Paul?
I don't know, but
we really should do a party someday for that.
But we do know that Takashi Izuka, I think. Izuka. Takashi Izuka. Anyway, Sonic Team, the head of Sonic Team, has recently had, because of course Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, and Sonic X Shadow Generations are both coming up pretty soon. And so in interview he's talking about how they feel about all the memes that come out about Sonic.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah. Of which I'd like to think Sonic's 30th anniversary is one.
I think we need to elevate it more.
Yeah, yeah. I
Come
was.
on, chat. That's your job too. We can't be the only ones.
He thinks these memes can be a positive thing because it illustrates how invested fans are in the brand and the characters. Sega loves to observe what is happening and enjoys that people are having fun engaging with the blur and his pals. It's saying, here's the quote saying, I don't know how many years ago there were a lot of Knuckles memes going on out of nowhere, and there were a lot of Amy memes as well. Objectively, we're just kind of watching what's happening, and we like that people are having fun and engaging with our characters. I mean, they did like the death of Sonic the Hedgehog and
Yeah.
different, like,
Yeah, the little visual novel story.
they clearly have some, they're willing to have some fun. And in this article is saying it's not, Sega is also not quite as strict as some other video game companies when it comes to fan-made things.
Fan-made things, sure. They're not super great on some of their streaming
But
restrictions.
in fact they brought people in. But they're saying, yeah, their official social media accounts have also like emphasized memes and stuff.
Yeah,
Obviously,
you would.
it's always tricky, when big companies like this. Like I remember, when I like to say like the Gritty stuff was coming out from the Philadelphia Flyers. Not Philadelphia Flyers. Whoever Gritty works for.
Chat, who does Gritty work for?
Who does Gritty work for?
And don't tell me it's the Grinch. We know that's a lie.
Is it the Flyers? Oh,
look, you were right.
I thought that was like the Philly Fanatic or whatever.
You doubted yourself. You were 100% correct, and you doubted yourself.
Maybe I'm thinking, maybe it's like different. Fanatic is baseball. Oh, I see. Right. Anyway.
Isn't that one green?
But it was like when there was like, when the memes of Gritty got past the like, Gritty's a fun character and got into the like, whatever, Gritty says no capitalism and like Gritty, all this and all these different things. And there's this point where like as a, when you're sort of at a corporation where it's like all these memes and stuff are great, but you have to be, you got to, you're really like holding the tail of the tiger there, right? Like at any time, the winds of the internet, the winds of the memes could easily shift, and you have no control over it, right? It's just this sort of stuff that's happening out there in the world.
You have to just embrace the memes. You cannot control memes.
But you can't. But if you sort of, if you as the sort of corporate parent acknowledge the memes, it can get kind of dangerous.
I mean, there's it depends too, right? Like a lot of times once we see, sometimes when you see a corporation acknowledge a meme, it kills it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then sometimes it's like, it's really funny, like Wendy's Twitter account or whatever.
Right. But it's like, if you start acknowledging a meme and then the memes, the thing starts changing into, or the new thing is, whatever, as Gritty starts, there was all the stuff about Gritty like breaking into people's houses and stuff.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's like at a certain point, at a certain point it becomes, it becomes dangerous when you can't actually, when you have no control over what people are doing with your character. Yeah, wasn't there a thing with like Gritty breaking into people's houses and doing stuff?
I don't remember that being a thing. That's not to say it didn't happen. I just
anyway. But yeah, I like to think that Sega is happy about Sonic's 30th anniversary as a meme.
I would like that.
and they should officially endorse it as a meme.
I mean, I only want them to acknowledge it because then it feels like they're acknowledging us.
Yeah.
And I want them to acknowledge us.
It is that thing where like you can, if I'm not saying that this should definitely happen or that you should go and do this, but if on like, Sonic X Shadow or various promotional videos for Sega, there was a continual thing of just like, it's Sonic's 30th anniversary, or this is great considering it's Sonic's 30th anniversary, or blah, 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 all this stuff, to the point where people who don't know what's going on are like very confused. That would make me happy.
I'd also go with that, yeah.
Or it's actually the combination. It's what I want is people posting that, and then I want earnest Sonic fans correcting them. Being like, actually, Sonic was first invented in...
It was Needle Mouse, and... Yeah.
Anyway. So...
I think I'm just enamored with the idea of an earnest Sonic fan, because I feel like they all have to be jaded by now.
I'm sure there's some earnest Sonic fans out there.
Let me know in the comments below if you're an earnest Sonic fan, and I want you to tell the truth.
Especially if you're a fan of like, some of the like, especially some of the like cartoons and stuff, maybe.
Look, I have some very specific opinions about the cartoons. Sad AM, Sonic Underground is acceptable. Sonic Boom, but if that's it. That's it. Well, maybe Sonic X.
Also,
most of them are good, but I didn't like the afternoon ones. So,
Also, I just can't get over. I mean, it's a brilliant casting choice, but Keanu Reeves as Shadow.
Yeah, I have to watch the new trailer.
And I
think he shows up in that.
want him so much to just do it exactly like as John Wick, and have Shadow act like as John, like, because Shadow has a gun. And I just want Shadow, in the movie, I just want Shadow to do the John Wick thing of just like, take the gun, punch the guy, shoot him in the face, drop him to the ground, shoot him twice.
I don't think that's going to happen. That probably raises the rating way higher than they want. I expect he'll do the thing about being a perfect being, because that's kind of his whole deal. Yeah,
like,
I have seen.
It's just the like, not only John Wick like shoots people and stuff, but the way John Wick fights is like this very particular, incredibly like brutal fighting style of like really close combat and just like punch, shoot, throw to the side.
Yeah, I do know. I swear I've seen a couple of headlines that are like, we finally get to see Keanu Reeves' Shadow. As a head, like and you know what they mean in that headline. It's like, oh, we get to see him be Shadow in like this trailer or whatever is what they mean. But I like to think that in Sonic 3, you don't see Shadow at all. You just literally see Keanu Reeves' Shadow somewhere on set, and it's never explained.
Anyway. So that is all of the stuff that I thought was interesting to talk about this week.
I think we hit some good topics.
Some fun stuff, some, somewhat frustrating things, but yeah, that's how it always goes. As you said at the beginning, that we'll be back with more checkpoint as usual, I think.
Ideally, next week, Checkpoint should return.
Yes.
If it doesn't, well, then at time of recording, ideally it should return. And I have...
Yes. If it doesn't, then
something happened.
Something happened. Which is always the, like, asterisk.
Yeah.
Checkpoint will be back, asterisk, unless it's not. But as far as we know right now, it will be back. And I'm sure there will be more news for that. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for supporting us in all the ways that you do, both here on Twitch, through our Patreon,
Over on YouTube.
patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, YouTube as a member, or if you buy stuff from the store.loadingreadyrun.com, or if you're just watching and you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, that all helps us. Following the channel,
Telling us that we're cute.
that's nice.
I don't know. Sometimes it's nice when there's nice comments.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You can lurk. I'm cool with that.
But thanks everybody for joining us, and we will talk to all y'all later. Bye.